Hi, I'm Mooskaan Baxi, and welcome to Kids and Entrepreneurship. Today we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship. So please welcome my guest and my dad, Minesh Baxi.
Thank you, Mooskaan. I'm so excited to be on your show here. Kids and entrepreneurship, one of the favorite topics for me.
Yeah. So let's start off. What is an entrepreneur?
Good question. When you talk about entrepreneurship in general, and you're talking about entrepreneurs, the definition according to, I think, Merriam-Webster's dictionary, etc., is somebody who takes financial risk.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in general, we all take financial risk, right? But entrepreneur is somebody who's taking a risk and investing their time, money, energy, and effort into something that may, relatively speaking, have not predictable, reliable outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And people are willing to try things that other people may not. So in my opinion, a lot of people are entrepreneurs. They just don't know they're entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is we live in a society where more and more people feel that they need to be taken care of by the government. There should be predictable path to the future.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is the world will always change.
Mm-hmm.
So Mooskaan, you never saw a landline typical phone normally, did you? Not typical, right? Landline phones weren't popular when you were born, right? They were still, So because cell phones are coming more and more involved.
Yeah.
Like you have a cell phone, obviously, right? So those kind of changes will always take place, which creates uncertainty in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So my opinion is everybody should be looking to be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And entrepreneurs are looked upon as a separate kind of individual.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea behind it is an entrepreneur is someone who is willing to take risk that the other people are not willing to take risk.
Mm-hmm. So who is that individual? Who is an entrepreneur?
Well, so let's talk about when we talk about entrepreneurs, let's talk about people who invented, created, and made people's lives easier. So let's talk about a few which come into my mind. The first person which comes to my mind is Thomas Alva Edison, right? He was an entrepreneur. And why was he, in my mind, a great entrepreneur? Is he was somebody that most people may not know. He actually studied in one of the schools in Port Huron, and his teachers thought he would never be successful.
Yeah.
Which is typical about quite a few entrepreneurs. They drop out of school, college, and the teachers and the other people are surprised, like, how come he or she became so successful? Because they thought differently.
Yeah.
See, most people are looking for reliable, predictable income.
Yeah.
They're looking for the same kind of safety, security in their lives. Whereas an entrepreneur is always asking, how can I do it better? How can I make an improvement? And that entrepreneur is the one who comes up with ideas. And I think that's the key part. An entrepreneur is somebody who comes up with an idea which may not have been tested, at least according to most people, and they're willing to take the risk.
And why do you think people should know about entrepreneurship?
Thank you. The whole world will not be the way it is today without entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about it. Thomas Alva Edison is a great example. He brought inventions which nobody had thought of before. I mean, he's credited to 1,000 inventions, and he just did a phenomenal job. You think of a lot of things. I think Thomas Edison had something to do with it seems like. You talk about electricity, he was part of it, right? Telephone, he was part of it. He was like, in terms of communication and something, not maybe directly initially, but in some form or fashion, he was helpful in it. Obviously, his concept on electrical bulb, the tungsten filament became a very common thing to know. He started the gramophone, I think, which became a record player, which you may not be familiar with. And nowadays, it's a different world of MP3s and everything else going on. But he was a great man. He was willing to take risk. So that's one person. Another person is Henry Ford. Henry Ford decided he was going to make the automobile available to everybody. Like a car in every garage.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays there are more than one. So there are 2 cars or more
Two or
in a
three,
garage nowadays, right? And so these entrepreneurs have a vision. They have something they're seeing beyond today. And take a look at Steve Jobs. He created iPod, which is a revolutionary concept of music, right?
Yes.
That's where it started. Then you talk about iPhone. iPhone has made so many things obsolete today.
Yeah.
Right? They have made so many things obsolete. I remember we used to have those cameras, the Polaroids, and then we had the other cameras where you had to develop negatives and everything else. And then the next digital cameras came along. And once iPhone came along as an example, it has a lot of functions that make a lot of things obsolete. So, for example, flashlight.
Yeah.
You don't have to carry a flashlight if your cell phone has a battery in it, right? It is still charging. Boom, you can have the flashlight working. You need to go on the internet. Well, the iPhone or any such device has that already. So the main thing that an entrepreneur does is they visualize a future that doesn't exist. They are willing to risk whatever they have to make that idea a reality. That, to me, is an entrepreneur.
Wow, that's great. So there are so many ups to being an entrepreneur. What is the biggest benefit, or what are just a few benefits you think entrepreneurship have?
Fantastic. I used to be a computer programmer. I did that for 12 years. I was obviously a typical employee, and I was not satisfied with my life. I wanted something different. Entrepreneurs typically start with an idea to be their own boss. They want to control their destiny. So if you are somebody who wants to control his or her destiny, the likelihood that you're going to find it at a corporate job is very minimal. You go to create your own enterprise, and that's where the entrepreneurship comes. And one of the reasons, well, let me tell you, the two reasons why US is so special. Obviously, as you know from my accent, I was born in India. I was born in a city called Agra, which is where Taj Mahal is. The two things that separate US from everybody else, every other country, is the foundation based on free speech and free enterprise. I don't mean free speech for you, but not me, or free speech for me and not you. No, free speech for everybody. Everybody should have their opportunity to speak up. And free enterprise is less and less government intervention so that the entrepreneurs can try their ideas without being punished. Because somehow we have come across in this country now as people who become successful as an entrepreneur have taken advantage of other people. Here is the bottom line, Mooskaan, and this is what I want to teach most of the people who are listening as well, who can get an understanding of this. This is one of the reasons I homeschool, is an entrepreneur cannot succeed without finding value to be added to other people's lives. Now, you may not like McDonald's, but when Ray Kroc made McDonald's popular, he created a convenient way for people to have lunch very quickly. They could have a menu of a few items and be fast food, right?
Yeah.
So that's what he created. Now, you may not like the food. Forget about that. But that's part of the culture. He just created a convenience for food that people already wanted. What about Henry Ford? He created a way for more and more people to have automobiles as well. So unless an entrepreneur creates a product or a service and reaches enough people to add value, that entrepreneur is not going to be successful. So if somebody is very successful as an entrepreneur, they reached out and convinced a lot of people to use their product or service. And if people did not want it, they could easily say, I don't want it.
Yeah.
But people who chose it made that entrepreneur successful. Now, you and I come from a family of entrepreneurship in terms of your grandparents. My in-laws started the Chinese restaurant called Kim's in Troy.
Yeah.
Well, that's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
They provided Chinese food, American version, and people loved it. And when people announced and found out that this was closing on August 12th, as you know, 2019, we had a lot of people coming every day because they wanted that food. So when people think of entrepreneurs, the first thing I want them to think about is an entrepreneur is somebody making a positive contribution based on the culture and the needs of the people. That is the number one. So let's talk about benefits. So in my case, obviously as an entrepreneur, I've been able to control more and more of my time and income through entrepreneurship. I couldn't do it at a job.
Yeah.
Now, you and I have had the luxury of going to Disney World 200 times. We talked about that in another segment. So which means what? Most people can't afford to do that. Why?
Yeah.
Because of time or money limitation. We were able to go there 3 to 6 months a year to Florida, enjoy warm weather during the winter in Michigan. That's the benefit. Another part is I feel that I connect with my clients, make a positive impact. Like one of my clients today was saying, Minesh, boy, you sound like David Copperfield. Now, obviously, I'm not a magician. That's not what I'm talking about. But in my field of expertise, I was able to show something to my client that was not something that they thought I would know.
Yeah.
And I found out without them telling me, and I was able to disclose how I could actually find out as well. And they were impressed, like, wow, How could you do that? But I have a sense of impact in people's lives, the close connection I have with people. Also, because of entrepreneurship, I have more time with my own family.
Yeah.
I'm able to spend time with you, with my wife. We travel together. Like next week, we are going to Scottsdale, and then we'll meet in Vegas.
Yeah.
And we are planning to go to Grand Canyon, fly in a helicopter, go down to the Grand Canyon. I've done that before personally with my wife, but obviously you haven't done it, Mooskaan and Sahil, so we'll be able to have them do it as well.
Yeah.
So there are so many benefits of being an entrepreneur, but the bottom line is every entrepreneur starts with the dream of controlling their destiny. So
Yeah.
if you are watching this, if you are listening, you're like, I would like to control my destiny. I recommend you think about entrepreneurship. But it's not taught in schools and colleges. That's the challenge I have.
Yeah, so how would you teach it? How do you teach it?
Well, Mooskaan, as you know, I give you assignments, projects, and you worked in the restaurant, which is pretty much small business enterprise. So you get to see and interact in a positive way. You take on projects where you take some risk, you learn something. Now, there are few skills which are required to be learned in every entrepreneurship. An entrepreneur, any small business owner or any business owner for that matter, has to have 3 segments which are important. The first is selling. If you cannot sell and get clients, there is no way that you will succeed in business.
Yeah.
The second thing is people management and systems, which means that once you have a client, do you have processes in place to take great care of client? The third part is money management, which simply means, are you running business based on decisions that will be profitable for you, or are you not putting that into consideration before you make a decision? And I think more and more people need to realize that they need to learn how to bring in clients, basis selling, marketing. The second part is to make sure the operations are running smoothly. And the last but not least, they're making decisions which are wise decisions about money. So once you have those 3 things in place, you can be a good entrepreneur. But the key aspect is always going to be, do you want to control your destiny? Are you willing to take risk? And you can teach, like lemonade stand is an example, right? Selling cookies. All of these things are just part of building that entrepreneurship. Because remember, an entrepreneur does not get paid in advance.
Yes.
An entrepreneur gets paid after giving value. You know, nobody pays you before they have tried you out. They pay you afterwards.
Yes.
And that's one of the things about entrepreneurship that people don't understand. You have to invest, you have to put in time, you have to put in effort before you are able to deliver the product or service to your potential clients. Only then can you actually make any money from it. So those are things about instant gratification is not there. It is over a time period.
Yeah.
Some of the restaurants, businesses that you see, these people have invested their life saving, they have borrowed a lot of money. But you have to learn that if you want to control your destiny, then you have to start with some risk. Yes.
All right, and that's all the time we have for today. So I'd like to thank my guest, Minesh. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for being here. I think we learned a lot about entrepreneurship, who's an entrepreneur, what's an entrepreneur, the benefits of it, and of course, teaching it. So thank you for watching and have a great day.